Hello, everybody. This is Robert Aducci, and I am here on behalf of Ulysses International, and we're going to talk about the Fantasy Grounds extension for the Dark Eye. This is a fan-made extension, which is really cool that someone loves the Dark Eye enough that they spend their time to make this really cool extension for Fantasy Grounds, so you can play the Dark Eye 5th edition on Fantasy Grounds. In addition to this, I wanted to put out there, I know we've kind of mentioned a little bit on social media, but we are in talks and in process of getting the Dark Eye as well as all of our products for Torg as well as Fading Suns on Fantasy Grounds and other virtual tabletops in the coming months. So this is sort of like a stopgap measure, a little bit, just a way for you to play while you're at home with your friends, play online with your friends. If you play a normal weekly game in person, then you can move that game online with the Dark Eye extension. This extension is made by someone named Skellen, so thank you so much, Skellen, for making this. It's really cool that we have such great fans. So let's kind of get into what is Fantasy Grounds. So Fantasy Grounds is a virtual tabletop, and that basically means that you can play D&D online with it, or play the Dark Eye or any other RPG online with it. They have lots of rule sets. So they don't have a core rule set for the Dark Eye, but they do have what is called core RPG, and the core RPG rule set is sort of like a generic rule set. On top of that generic rule set, someone, Trenlo, I believe, actually made the extension. Trenlo made the extension, and then Skellen, which I mentioned earlier, made a theme. And so with those two together, you get the Dark Eye experience. Now, Fantasy Grounds itself is just the tabletop, so you'll still need something to chat with your friends, whether that's Discord or Zoom or Skype or however you want to use to have your video or audio solution. I tend to use Skype a lot, but when Skype isn't working for some people, then I've been using Discord chat, audio chat. So you could use any of those things. Now, back to Fantasy Grounds specifically. When you get Fantasy Grounds, it's sort of just like a blank canvas, and you can add all kinds of extensions and rule sets to kind of make the game that you want to play. Some rule sets are specific for a specific game. Others, like the core RPG, are generic, and so you can try to play any game with them. There is another cool rule set called More Core, which was created by Damned, and so More Core just adds some functionality to the core rule set, and so it's sort of it's technically its own rule set, but it's based off of the core rule set. And so in order to play Fantasy Grounds, in order to play the Dark Eye Fantasy Grounds, you've got to do a couple of things to get yourself set up. And I want to iterate that if you have heard about Fantasy Grounds recently, there's a lot of things going on with it, which is really cool. And as a full to put everything out there fully, I also work for Fantasy Grounds, so I'm aware of kind of what's going on with them. I do some social media for them, and Fantasy Grounds just released it recently in what they're calling open access, the Fantasy Grounds Unity version, which is a new 64-bit version. It's got line of sight, some really cool map features that they didn't have in the Fantasy Grounds Classic. And Fantasy Grounds Unity is great, but we're not using Fantasy Grounds Unity for this yet. A lot of extensions such as this hasn't been updated. A lot of the themes that we would need have not been updated for Fantasy Grounds Unity yet. So once again, we are using Fantasy Grounds Classic. So if you see FGC, if you're going to get Fantasy Grounds, you want a Fantasy Grounds Classic for this. In addition, once right now, all of the rule sets that we end up putting out right now are going to be for Classic. And then once Unity is out fully, then our developer will create it for Unity. So we will have everything eventually, but we're going to start with Classic and then move to Unity. And you need Classic to make this extension run. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is get Fantasy Grounds. And so there's a couple of ways that you can get Fantasy Grounds. You can download the complete app and have and buy it for your lifetime if you buy the standard or ultimate version of Fantasy Grounds Classic. The differences between those is if you're going to be the only GM and none of your players are ever going to be your GM, then you probably want the ultimate version, because that lets you connect with people that don't have a standard version. They have just the demo version. So if you're going to be the core GM, I would definitely go with ultimate. Now, if you and some more of your friends are going to, different people are going to GM, then maybe just everybody could use the standard license, and so that's not as expensive. But you cannot host unlimited demo versions, and so users. And so, if you're going to once again, if you're going to be the core GM, get the ultimate version. And in addition to the full license that you can buy, if that one time out of pocket is too much for you, or you just want to try it out, you can get the just the subscription model. And again, you can get a subscription for the ultimate version or for the standard version. And so same stipulations as I said before. One cool thing about Fantasy Grounds also is if you don't like anything, if you don't like it, they give a 30 back money, 30 back full guarantee, money back guarantee. So if you don't like it, you can just email their support and they'll give you your money back. That's it. So once you get Fantasy Grounds downloaded and installed, it'll do some updates and you should be good to go. So I will put all of these links in the description of this, once it goes on YouTube, and I'll try to put it in the we'll put it in the chat right now. So the first thing we're going to do once you have it downloaded and installed is you're going to go and get the More Core rule set. And the More Core rule set, when you go to this forums, Fantasy Grounds forums are fantastic. If you have questions, Fantasy Grounds is a complicated tool, and it is has a bit of a learning curve. But once you get it, it is amazing. And so this is the rule set which you're going to need. So what you're going to do, the Damned kind of goes through all of this and gives all kinds of details on how it works and different kinds of additions they've added to it, updates. And so we're going to go down here and it says attached files. And so you're going to get this PAK file right here. So the PAK file is the rule set file. So we want that. That's the first thing we want. So you're going to save that into, let's see, when I click it, it's not going to show you guys that. So I'm going to save that into my Fantasy Grounds folder. And let me show you where that is going to be. Let me see, turn off. 1 second. Let me turn off the, I need to bring up the Explorer. There we go. That went way bigger than I thought it was going to. All right, let me pull this down here. There we go. All right, so as you're looking at my Explorer, I'm going to drop it into, this is where I save my program data for Fantasy Grounds, and I'm going to drop this into the rule sets folder. So you see rule sets right here. You might not have all of these folders in your Fantasy Grounds folder, in your data folder. But here is where I'm going to drop it in the rule set. And so you see I've got a bunch of rule sets, and I've already got the More Core unpacked because I was doing a couple things. But anyways, so there is a, you would just drop it in and save it here in your rule sets folder. All right, so that is the end of that. And then I would go to, let me get back over here to Explorer. Oh, that's the wrong one too. There we go. Now I'm back over here. So I will now go to get the extension. So once I have the more core in there, then I'm gonna go get the extension. Here's where the extension is, and this was created by Trenlo. And basically what the Dark Eye extension does is it puts all of the specific Dark Eye rules into Fantasy Grounds. And so that is the rule saying, like, for example, you want to roll low on your attribute checks, and you want to roll 3 dice, and what those 3 dice are for your skill checks or your spell rolls and all that stuff. So that's what's in here. And the way you do that is you download these things. So the first is going to be the extension. So you're going to click this, and you're going to go back to your Explorer, and it is going to, you need to get to your Fantasy Grounds folder again, but this time instead of going into the rule sets, you're going to go into extensions. And so here's a bunch of extensions that I have. You're just going to save it here. All right, that's the first step. Then you go to these other things that it asks you to get, such as the skeleton mod and the PC template. Now, the skeleton mod is what you need to, it kind of has NPCs in it, how you build your NPCs, and it's also got, the players will need to activate this to activate a couple of things on the character sheets. So when you download a mod file, it's got to go to another folder, and that is going to go to, again, under Fantasy Grounds, it's going to go under modules. So modules are generally like your adventures, but also anything else, kind of any actual content that you have is going to go into mod files. Now, one thing, since this is a fan-made product, it is not going to include all of the details of your characters. So you're going to have to kind of populate it with your own information. But we're just going to save it in here. All right. The next section we're going to go the next thing we're going to download is the PC template. So this is how you're going to make a PC. So you click that, and this is an XML file, and it is going to go into your I just made a folder, so this isn't normally here, but I made a templates folder. So you can see there's a bunch of templates in there for different stuff. But there's the Dark Eye PC template here that I've already saved. And so you're going to want that for this. You can save it anywhere. It doesn't have to be in this specific location, but that's what I created it for. So that's that. All right. One other cool thing about this is that Trenlo gives you like how to use this. How are you going to do this? It kind of tells you all of the exact same things I just told you how to do. And there is a PDF user guide. So again, if you don't want to listen to me babble on about this, you can just get the user guide, and it should tell you all the same things. I didn't actually use it because I'm pretty familiar with this stuff, so I just kind of did it myself, but it's all there. This kind of, he just gives some more information about what kind of functionality. So it looks like it says there's new 5 new more core roles. There's DSA skill. We'll get into this. You don't need a lot of this because it is already set up in the extension, which is cool, but you can do it if you want. There are some effects which are cool, which again we'll go into, expanded sheets, attacks, auto calculation of things. And then there's some known issues like conditional effects raise errors. So it's just something that doesn't look like you can do yet. No dice towers yet, which is dice tower is a kind of cool thing in Fantasy Grounds where the players can drop their dice in the dice tower and they don't get to see the results. So, if you want someone to be stealthy, they want to be stealthy, they make a stealth roll, but they don't know if they were actually stealthy or not. So that's cool. I like that. But it doesn't work in this one. So maybe that'll be a future thing that we do. And it should definitely be in our full extension once the Ulysses extension comes out. And auto pain doesn't calculate correctly for creatures starting with 5 life points or less. So that's just something to keep in mind, but not a game breaker at all. And one cool thing that this does automatically is, as it says, it does auto pain calculations. And so you won't see that, but it will affect the rolls, and you'll see those effects. We'll get into that a little bit. And then there's some things for future developments, but I don't know if they've got into it yet. And now, obviously, we probably won't need to. So hopefully in several months, we will, and maybe quicker, who knows, we'll have these full versions. And then there's just a bunch of people talking. So there's let's see, there are 3 pages of people talking about the Dark Eye stuff. So go ahead and check that out at Fantasy Grounds when you download this stuff. So once we download all of this stuff, then we also have to get the theme. Now the theme is what makes it look like Fantasy Grounds, kind of gives this cool look. And Skellen made this theme, and it's been modified by Damned and Trenlo and myself. I even added a little bit to it because there were some changes to more core that ended up having to get changed and added in. And so this is what's going to give us our theme. And this was approved, not approved, but it was, given the go ahead by Ulysses. And so it's okay that it uses our logo and stuff like that. And somebody just asked, is the Dark Eye more core development in sync with the German DSA? Are they in sync? So no, they are not in sync at all. The German DSA rule set is completely separate than this. And I actually just learned about the DSA rule set recently. I didn't know there was one. And so I'll probably, I'll go ahead and get our the people that are creating our English versions to maybe talk with the German people and people that are doing it as fans, and kind of see if they can help each other out. One of the cool things about that, let me see if I can find, there's recently, I guess I don't need to find the whole thing, but so recently, Doug from Fantasy Grounds just put out a bunch of charts and some data about how much people are playing, and it's amazing. In the past month or two, people are playing 2 to 5 times more on any given rule set than they were the prior month. Obviously, a lot of us are kind of on lockdown from COVID and that kind of thing, and so yeah, there's a lot more people playing, and one of those games that people are playing is the DSA game, and because it has its own rule set, it's counted separately than say this game. This game, the Dark Eye theme and the Dark Eye extension would come under more core. That's one of the more popular systems as well, but it's not broken out from all of the other more core systems, unfortunately. However, the DSA, which is Die Schwarze Arge, which is the Dark Eye in German, the DSA rule set has its own rule set, and so it is actually number 14. So out of all the hundreds or however many games that are different kinds of games that are being played on Fantasy Grounds, DSA is number 14, which is really cool for a fan-made extension. So back to the theme. So the theme is what you're going to need to see what it looks like, and just like we did before, since with the extension file, you can download this, click it, and take us over to where we're going to download that into our extensions folder. So that's going to be here. So if we go here, more core, see we have the Dark Eye, and then we have the Dark Eye theme. All right. So now that we have that, you are going to go to Fantasy Grounds itself. Now, I've already got Fantasy Grounds open, but we are going to, we'll kind of go out of it real quick here. So here's my Fantasy Grounds version. So this is kind of what it looks like once it's all kind of set up. Let's see, let me hide this. And we're going to kind of get out of here real quick just to kind of show you what it looks like. So I'm going to exit, and I'm just going to return to the launcher. So this is the sort of Fantasy Grounds launcher, and Let me move this over here for a moment. All right, so we're gonna load a campaign. Now, if I didn't have one already set up, then I would be creating a campaign, but we're gonna load this campaign. So I click load campaign and it pops up here. Now I already have the dark guy here set up. I've got a password in case someone's getting in there, but one of the things you have to do is you have to go down here and you have to add the more core dark eye. This is what you need to select, and you need the theme. So you need both of these, more core, dark eye, and theme. All right, so now that I've got that, I can go ahead and start my campaign, and it should come up. It just takes a moment to kind of load everything up. So those of you in chat, you know, what are your experiences with Fantasy Grounds? Have you played it? Have you played the Dark Eye online with other virtual tabletops or with other just in other ways online? I've been using Fantasy Grounds for, I don't know, about 4 years now, probably. I would say no, maybe 6 years. Wow, maybe 6 years, 5 or 6 years at least. All right, so here we go. This pops up. This is what it normally pops up with your campaign setup. If you don't want all of this stuff, you can just unclick show on load, and this just gives you links to all of the Fantasy Grounds you know, user manuals and stuff. So an actual user manual, there's a wiki, the forums, everyone in the Fantasy Grounds forums are super helpful. So if you have questions, you can definitely go there. Oh, I also want to mention Fantasy Grounds College. So Fantasy Grounds College is a great group of people that teach people how to play Fantasy Grounds. It's all free. You can go to fantasygroundscollege.net, I believe. And I don't think I put, hold on one second. Let me throw the theme link in here. Here's the theme. And then I think it's Fantasy Grounds College. Oh, .com? Is it .com? No. That is not right. .net. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, there it is. Here, I'll throw that in the chat here as well. But there are a bunch of great people that teach people how to do Fantasy Grounds, and there is a Discord server where most of their classes are set, and they have a lot of videos online too. So go to YouTube. You know, if you want to search any aspect about Fantasy Grounds, you can search it on YouTube, and there'll probably be a video. Let's see. Vendalist says they use the D20, the Dark Eye sheet, so that's cool. Yeah. So there's, I assume you mean the Roll20 Dark Eye sheet. Yeah, I heard there was some of that. And again, we're gonna have all of this converted on Fantasy Grounds, on Roll20, and on maybe some other virtual tabletops as well. We'll see. So getting back to what we're doing here, so we're going to go ahead and close out of this since we don't need it. And given that this would, you know, if this were a brand new session, there's a couple of things we would have to do, and I'm going to go ahead and walk you through that now. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to open that module. So we're going to go down here to the bottom right hand corner. Oh, so let's talk about the theme first. So first off, you know, there's the logo, and again, this was used with permission. This is just a fan made extension and stuff, but we gave permission to use it. And so over here on the left, this is where you're going to have your chat. So you can type in here. You can also change if there was other people or other languages. You could put that in here. And you can put a slash in there, and it gives you a bunch of like options of let me move this over a little bit, of things you can type in here to get different effects and messages and send private messages and all that kind of stuff. So Fantasy Grounds is pretty cool like that. All right, so we got this. We've got the dice. Obviously, you roll the dice, but this is just your kind of regular just rolls. You know, if we're using the Dark Eye, we're only going to need the D10 or the D6s and the D20s, but they're all here because this is built on top of the more core, which it doesn't know what dice you need, so it just includes them all. Over here on the right, we have characters, notes, images. A lot of these are kind of your generic things that you need for any game. And so they're all sort of here, even though they're slightly themed. And, you know, the more core kind of changed a little bit, and that's why we're getting a little bit of this this bleed over on the longer names. And so again, this is a fan made thing, so it's not 100%, but it's very serviceable and usable. And you know, I thank Trenlo and Damned and Skellen, the people that made all these things. You know, whatever little issues they have don't really matter, because it's still, you know, it's free. These are free and they're fun to play with. So first, let's go to our library. Now, your library is really important. It's the thing that is going to help you load up the content you need. So even though I've already got it loaded here, if I didn't have it loaded here, I would need to click modules. And these are my data modules. I have a ton of them because I just have a bunch of stuff. This is mostly maps and things like that. Although it's only going to load things that are usable for Fantasy Grounds. I'm sorry, usable for More Core. So it's not going to be all of my my content, but just some of it. So what we need here is this Tde Skeleton Module. So as you can see, some of these say load. I would need to click load on here. You also need to make sure that this has a green check mark. And what that means is that players can use it. And the reason players need to be able to use it is because it affects some of the roles, I guess. So you just would drag this up to here and drop it. It would allow them to load it. Once you click load here, it's going to open this book. See how these ones are not, this book is closed, this book is open. I mean, I could just, you know, load and unload it there. So once that's done, I close out of here, then it would be here. And this is going to give us our effects, it's going to give us our modifiers, and it's going to give us our NPCs. And so we'll go into that in a bit. Actually, let's just go through that now. So I can click it here, or this over here on the right-hand side. See here, it says effects over here. You can click on that, and it's going to load up all of your effects. And these are all your, you know, your conditions and whatnot that you've got from the Dark Eye. So if you have your pain, your fear, your different levels, your 4 different levels of everything is in here. And we'll talk about how to use that in a bit, but they're all there. And then you have some modifiers. Oh, where did that not come in? There we go. So again, modifiers are here. This is the plus and minus over here on the right-hand side, and that'll pop them up. And so these are just some generic modifiers. And then it has, if you want to make attribute checks or skill checks easier or harder on someone, I'll show you how to use these as well. So these are all here. And I think if you click, if you click here, it'll show you if they're visible to your players or not. So you can have some hidden. None of these you would want hidden to your players. So those are there. All right, and then NPCs, you can also get this from over here. There's a button here, NPCs, or it should open. It opens a template. So here it is. Here you can see it here. So if I open that up, it should be the same thing. Yeah. And so we'll go again. We'll kind of go over some of that, but I just wanted to show you how to start it up, and that's how you do that. Next, so we've got the module in. Now we're gonna need our characters. And so we click characters, and I've already got some NPC characters in here. But if these were completely blank and you wanted to add that XML sheet of the PC, what you would do is you come down here to the bottom right and click import character. And then I would hit import character file again. And it would pop up, you're not seeing this, but it basically pops up my... it basically pops up a window, a Windows window, and I would just go to wherever I saved that XML file, and when I import it, it imports it blank. So let me go import the blank one, and hold on, I gotta go find it real quick. That's where I saved it under my templates folder. So I'm gonna go to my templates folder that I had saved earlier and add in. So on the bottom left here, it says that it was added in. And now I'm going to go back over here, and now you can see template. So all of these characters were made. Actually, one of my players, I was doing some play test. Some of you might recognize, probably not though, since they're probably only in German, but these are the these are the playtest, or sorry, these are the introduction characters for the Dark Eye starter set, which has not been released in English yet, but will be upcoming. And these are the all of those characters that one of my players imported everything for. So it's really awesome. I really appreciate that, Rochelle, if you're watching this. So here's the template. We're gonna pop this open, and so here's the generic template. I say generic, but obviously it's got the Dark Eye on it. So this is the character sheet that you can use for any character. Some of these things are automated more than others, but a lot of them are automated, which is really cool. So I'm gonna try to squeeze this down just a little bit. All right, let's see if I can make this screen a little tiny bit bigger. Yeah, there you go. Just to give us a little more real estate here. So this is a screen kind of, you can just put whatever information you want in here, name, class information, fate points. All this information is here. You should, if you've played the Dark Eye, you'll recognize a lot of this. Let's pull up one of these characters. Here's the NPC. One of the cool things is that you can put your own portraits and stuff like that of your character. So you would just click on this. One of the things that's a little bit wonky in Fantasy Grounds is that basically if a player wants to put in their own portrait, they have put in a portrait, they have to use their own. You can't share portraits from one person to another, which is a little strange given that you can with tokens, which we'll get into that in a minute. So these are all portraits. This is going to be your big kind of square area of what your character looks like. And then this is tokens. So this is a slightly different area. Oops, it came up on a map, which we'll get into in a bit. But tokens are down here also. So if you click on tokens down at the bottom right, these will be all your tokens. And so I have a bunch of stuff in here. Again, these are the Dark Eye ones I made already. And, you can use them. So I cropped these out of the German starter set using token tool. That's another great tool. All of these things, we'll have these they'll be included if you buy like the Dark Eye starter set on Fantasy Grounds, these would all be included. But if you just have PDFs, you can use token tool to make your own tokens, which is what I used to make these. I even made these fate points, even though I didn't end up using it. I didn't end up using this because this character sheet has fate points. So, all right, so we've got our token now, which is going to be useful for maps. Let me give you an example. If I'm over here, I can just take one of these tokens and I could drag it over to this little circle area here on the top right, you can see, and it just drops it right into there. So now if I use this character on a map, it would pop in. Someone's talking about Roll20. They said Roll20 is really buggy at the moment due to the updates that are being hurried and not implemented properly. That's unfortunate. Hopefully people are getting some use out of that. And hopefully, again, we'll have all of our content on there sooner rather than later. So I'm just going to close this because this is the generic one, but this is the NPC that's already got some stuff filled out. So let's close that. And you'll see on the character sheet over here on the right, it's got more core, which is like, this is the front tab. Then you've got data. And so this is where, a bunch of information could be entered. Normally, actually, let's go ahead and keep that blank one open, because normally when you come in to this tab, there's nothing here. So you can see nothing was here, but then there's information here. And again, one of my players, Rochelle, entered all this stuff, so I really appreciate that. And that's going to let us see how these things work. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put this one on top. And then you've got the main tab, which is just has, I don't see a use for this one necessarily. And again, these are all based off the more core character sheet. In our own full version of this, we're not going to have all these unneeded tabs. Here's some abilities. There's some equipment. One of the cool things about Fantasy Grounds is it shows you, what is in your equipment and what is in a bag. So here we have a satchel, and in that satchel we have all of these things. Even in the tinderbox, we have Tinder inside the tinderbox, which is cool. And then we've got the weight. Although the weight we don't have it entered because it was probably not on our quick sheets that we used. But if we were using a full rule set, you would have things like items in here. Right now we don't have any items because, again, this is just with the extension, with the rule set, it's just the rules. It's not any of the actual content. And so you would have to enter enter all of that information yourself, which if you already own the Dark-Eye core book and you don't want to pay again to get this information on Fantasy Grounds, you don't have to. You can enter it manually. It's just going to take you time. So, a lot of times people say like, oh, I already bought the core book. Why do I have to buy this again? Well, it's going to take our developers time to take all that information and to put it into Fantasy Grounds or to put it into Roll20. So, so that's why, you're being asked to pay again. And I understand, I'm a user, and sometimes it kind of stinks to have to pay twice. But the thing is, spend the time to try to do it once for a rule set, enter some data in there, and then you're like, oh, this is effort. And you're like, okay, yeah, I would want to pay someone to do this. In which case you can. If you don't want to pay someone to do it, you don't have to. You could just enter it. And so, I encourage you to pay for it, because then you get all the cool graphics, you get everything set up right and for you. But if you have the time, you don't have the money, then go ahead and enter yourself. So if there was all that information entered in here, all the weights would be entered, and then this would give you a total, which is great. And then here's some money. So that's inventory, and then notes. Here's your appearance, your languages, and just any information you want. Now, one of the cool things about this character sheet is with the extension, it lets us roll everything. So like everything that is highlighted as we mouse over it will let us roll. So if we wanted to attack with our mage's staff, we can just double click the attack button and it automatically rolls. Oh, I clicked it a couple times, but it automatically rolls. And so we know in the Dark-Eye, in order to hit, you need to roll equal to or under your own attack rating. And so this shows us that. So this little eye thing is telling us that that people cannot see this result. So we are we're the game master, and so we can see it, but the players would not see any of these results. So even these results where I just rolled dice, the players wouldn't see these results, which is kind of cool. So you can change a lot of that. So there's options over here. There you got options. And one of the things that, it is showing me this. Cool. So one of the things, let's see. It's looking a little funky. I'm trying to get this up here. Let's see if I can figure that one out. This is the Windows capture. So if I make it bigger, nope, it's not doing it. All right, I don't know why it's doing that, but this is what you're sort of seeing here is the guide. And so one of the things that was in here that I didn't do that I need to do. So again, this is like how to do all the things we've already done here. Shows about our modifiers, shows about the PCs, but I thought there was talks about the options we wanted to have set up. I'm not seeing it right here. I'll have to look later. But I need to hide this. Sorry. There we go. These options. There's a bunch of options you can have for your game. Some are for Fantasy Grounds itself. Some are for the rule sets. One of the ones I like to use that I didn't use last time I played, but I need to, is that you can have facing. So facing is important for the Dark-Eye. Let's see. Here's like show GM roles. So if I turn that on, Now when I roll a dice, it shouldn't have this here, right? So now when I roll that dice, anybody will be able to see my results. Same if I attack with this character, it should show the result. Yeah, so there's not that slashed eye, so anybody, the other players will be able to see that. And so there was a let's see, there's combat. There we go. Numbering, ring bells. Where's the player facing? I know there was somewhere. There it is, facing indicator. So it's on right now. It's by default, I think that's off, but you want that on, and we'll show you that in a bit. So to get back to this, as you can see from our several rolls here, the first one has a check in it, and that means it was a success and a possible critical. And it's the reason that it rolled twice. I thought I rolled too many times, but I did not, because one of the cool things that this extension does, if you roll a critical, or at the same time if you roll a botch, it will automatically roll to confirm your critical or botch. So it did it for free for us. So it says down here, it says no critical, normal success. So we hit with that, and now we could roll our damage. We go like this, and damage. Oh, and so I already had someone targeted, which we'll get in that in a minute. But it rolls our damage. There it is. Now, as you can see, it says versus Brigand. The status that Brigand is mortally wounded. So let's go ahead and get into that now real quick. Actually, no, let's continue on looking at the character sheet. So here you can see our attributes. If you wanted to edit that, we could just click edit. And this looks a little bit complicated, but it's telling you that it's basically rolling these parameters. So this is the dice roll that it's using. Again, all of this is in the Morecore user manual, and the that forum page will tell you kind of how to use these dice rolls. And so this is like agility 11. That's our agility. So if you go and change that, you would have to unclick it to lock it or unlock it. And now if we wanted to roll that, we would just click this. It's saying these are the rolls. So if we click any of these rolls, it's going to roll it for us. And it's going to again do the same thing that happened before with our attacks. So we made this, what is this? A charisma roll, and it was an 18, so we failed our roll. Now, at the same point, if we go down here into our skills, let's do our skills. So this looks like the same. So if we hit the little shield, it'll show us the data behind it. And if we click the unlock, we can edit this. I wouldn't recommend editing this stuff. The one thing that you are going to want to recommend is up here. This is your skill rating. So if you had a skill rating, that's where you would put it. And that's what it's using to roll. So let's find one of the skills. Let's see, we're Hyscindian. So we probably have, let's see if we have alchemy is a skill. Yeah, so our rating is 4 right here. So see that rating? So let's go ahead and try to roll this. We're going to roll our alchemy skill. And it tells us we have pain, which I think this, I hadn't reset this from last time we played. But this character has pain. As you can see, we have 12 wounds. So our normal life points are 27, but we've taken 12 points of damage. And so we have 1 level of pain. So it's telling us we have a pain modifier of 1. So the total modifiers are -1. And our rolls are 12, or our stats are 12, 15, 13, and our rolls were 6, 12, and 14, which shows you our roll for the dice. So it was 6 versus 11. I'm not sure. I said this is courage. Our courage was 12. So I'm not sure why it was saying 6 versus 11. Oh, because the -1. So it's taking that into account. So the 12 of our stat is turned into an 11. So that's what it's already taking that into account. So 6 versus 11. So that's a success. 12 versus 11 also a success, and 14 versus 12 also a success. So our skill points that we had, let's see. Oh, so it automatically spent skill points. So here is our dexterity. We needed a 13, but with our pain, we needed a 12. We rolled a 14, and so we rolled over. So that means we needed to spend 2 skill points. So it says skill points spent is 2, and it gives us our overall rating, which is success, and our quality level, which again, knowing that with the Dark Eye, sometimes your quality level is important for your spells, and things like that, and other things. But it's saying we succeeded. So let's try to roll it again and maybe see if we can fail. We'll see. There we go, failure. So again, this shows us we succeeded up here before with our previous roll, and this is showing us down here, this little X, that we failed. And it tells you the individual skills, which is cool. So I think this is where it saves you time. Fantasy Grounds will save you time. You'll make these rolls, and in the game it'll tell you that. And so now as a GM, if I'm running the game, I can narrate that. So if Ascendian is doing trying to do alchemy, and I know they failed at their dexterity portion of the alchemy, I can say, you fumbled something, and so it ruined your alchemy, which is cool. I think that gives a lot of descriptive and narrative ability for game masters or for players. Players can see that too, and they can say, oh, this is how I failed, this is why I failed, or this is why I succeeded. Maybe they rolled a 1 on one of their rolls, and so they got a critical success on that part, and that's why they succeeded. So I think that's real cool. All right, so it would do the same thing. Let's get over here. If we want, these are our spells, and we'll talk about this too. This is a cool thing right here. So this is Balsam Salabunde is the healing spell, and so this kind of shows, again, my player Rochelle copied all that information in here, and I'm extremely thankful for her for doing that. And it shows what the effects are. So this is just text right here, but she also put this in here. So this shows that if I targeted someone, which we'll talk about in a moment, this is the effect that would have on it. And so watch, if I click this, it'll probably say I healed a brigand. So it says I rolled 6, and I healed the brigand. Yeah, because I had the brigand targeted. So let's get into that. So there are, in Fantasy Grounds, you have your initiative tracker, and you have your party sheet. Actually, no, party sheet I don't think does much in this. So let's just go look at initiative tracker. And so if you are one of those game masters who likes to run what's called theater of the mind these days, where you just want to describe the action. You don't actually have to have a map in Fantasy Grounds, but you can, which is, I think, one of the very powerful things of Fantasy Grounds, lets you use the map. But if you don't want to do that, you can just use the combat tracker, which is cool. So it just shows you, this kind of shows you, who your allies are. So all of these characters are included in allies, and here are the enemies. And so right now, let's get back, last time we played, they defeated these brigands, but let's put it back at, put their health back, and it kind of shows you their wounds. As you can see, this person is Ramaksash is very wounded, so he's got some heavily wounded coloration here. Now that these guys have 0 wounds, it's showing that they're healthy. And this extension kind of takes into consideration your protection, your pro value. And so that's what this defense is here. Since this is a generic rule set, they didn't change defense to pro. In the full rule set, this will say pro here, and it would be included. And so let's so this is the way it would look, if you didn't use maps. If you do use maps, it would look like this. So here is a map, and so this was the kind of the end of our combat. But you can see here that that they have facing. And the reason facing is important is because, as we said, if you attack someone from behind, I think it's like they have like a -3 or a -4 to their defensive rolls. But if you click on someone, you can turn and see change the facing like so. So that's how that is useful. And so normally in a combat, let me kind of change this. There we go. Just so we can kind of see a little bit. So you can say this guy's over here. This is kind of telling us that that this person is targeted. So we have Hessian targeting Brigand 3, and when someone is targeting someone, it will automatically show your distance to them, which is kind of cool. And so when you move in Fantasy Grounds, there's a couple different ways you can set it up. You can set it so the players can move freely, or you can set it so you have to approve, so the Game Master has to approve their movement. I kind of find that's a little restrictive, but it is useful because we all make mistakes, but I just find it a little restrictive. So right now, we're 4 yards away, and we're targeted. So let me show you that. So you come over here, look at the combat tracker. Now, in Fantasy Grounds, one of the cool things also is that there's usually two ways you can do things. You can do them via the map, or you can do them via the combat tracker. So as a player, so let's say it's Hessian's turn over here. So as you notice, when I clicked on that, and it shows that this is the little this little flag says whose turn it is. Right now it says target Brigand 3. So if we hadn't been playing yet, as you can see, when I unclick that, it takes it off. But if I want to target them, I hold Control and I click either the token inside the combat tracker or the token on the character sheet or on the map, either one. So let's go here. When I do that, it says targets Brigand 3, or I can do this on the map and do that, and it will untarget them. And so that's why when we were clicking the character sheet, it was saying that we attacked them, which is cool. And so, like in games, in other games where you have to use the target's like armor class or whatever, it automatically calculates that. And in this game, since in the Dark Eye, since you just roll against your own skills, it doesn't really have an effect. But for things like once you do damage, like protection value, it rolls against their protection value, or I should say it reduces the damage taken by their protection value, which is cool. So in this instance, if I wanted to click on the wizard, I could go here. And again, if I can make my attacks, they're out on the front here. So say I wanted to hit him with my mage staff, I would click this, and then down here. So right now, as you'll see, I'm kind of coming upon a little bit of screen real estate, need for more screen real estate. And normally when I play, I've got two big monitors, and I kind of spread this across two monitors, so I have lots of screen real estate. But if you're on a small laptop, it can definitely get a little bit dicey. And so one of the ways that you can fix that, so say I don't want to have my character sheet, if I'm a player, I don't want to have my character sheet up all the time. You got this cool row of quick buttons down here. Now, not only do you have this row, but if you hold Control, you've got a whole nother row. If I hold Shift, I've got another row. And if I hold Alt, I've got another row. So I've got so many rows down here of things that I want. And as you're a GM or a player, you can drag different things in here. So say I wanted to, I'm like, oh, I always use my mage's staff to attack with. So I can grab my attack value, and I can drop it down here. And now it says attack close mage's staff. Now, you can also right click and click edit label, and I can change that to whatever I want in there. But for right now, I'm going to keep that. And if I click on it, it automatically rolls. And so there was my staff. And again, the brigand is targeted. So I missed. And so, say I hit though. Okay, just say it says I hit. Now when I roll, kind of as I showed before, now when I roll this damage, since the brigand is targeted, it's going to target the brigand and do damage to them. So here it says it did 7 damage to the brigand. If we go look at the combat tracker now, Brigand 3, I had healed him before, but now it did 7. So that's pretty cool. So, and it tells us what his pain level is down here. His pain level 0. So all of that is calculated on the back end. Now let's say it was the other way around, and now let's say it's the brigand's turn, and this brigand is targeting Valerial, which is over here. So obviously they would have to turn around, but let's say we're turned around. Now, this brigand has an NPC sheet, which I just you know, I copied what I had from the document I was using, and I just copied it and put it in here. So the generic NPC sheet, if we look over here under NPCs, it's got the template. So if I was going to make a template, so it's what I did for all of these. Basically, I just pick it up and drag it over here and drop it, and that'll automatically copy it. So now it says template 1 right here. So as you can see, it's different because this is part of this module is what it's telling us. So now here's the template, and now I would come in here, I would unlock the template, and now I would change whatever information I want in here, the name, the size, the reach, all of this stuff. And then once I save it, that's how I got all of these. I would also put a monster in here, a token. And so that's how I got these. So here's the Brigands. So this is the generic Brigand. And every time you one of the cool things about Fantasy Grounds is every time you drag, I would just need to drag this in here. Watch, it's going to add a new one. So here we go. It added a new one, and it automatically calculates that it was Brigand 1, 3, and 4. And I don't think I had the token in there. That's why it didn't give us a token, but we could just go get a token and drag it in there. And it also shows you that when you first add a monster, see how there's this little eye with like little lines through it? Well, right now that's telling me that that monster is invisible. See how this one has an eye, so that means it's visible. And so the other players, they can't see that this monster is here, which is useful for invisible monsters. Also, it's just useful for staging. So like if I'm getting ready to fight and they're in a room and they don't even know they're ready to fight, but I know there's going to be a fight, I can put the monsters here ahead of time, which is cool. That's where you get encounters. See over here, it says encounters. So I can build encounters. So like here is an encounter with giant rats. So I'd made giant rats. I dragged the NPC, this giant rat, over here. If I wanted to add another one, I could drag it again, or I can just drag it once and change the number here. Now that this is an encounter, it's got this little button down here. If I click this, it would, as it says, add encounter to combat tracker. If I clicked it, it would add 4 giant rats to this encounter. So that's kind of cool. That's how Fantasy Grounds kind of really helps you with a lot of automation. But let's get back to this combat. I'm in, I pull up the monster. I'm going to attack Valerial Stardart. I'm going to use my club. So here's the club. I roll. My club is at an 11. And if we look over here, it's telling us that the 11 hits. All right. So we know we hit. Now we got to go to Valerial and see if Valerial can dodge or parry. So let's go to pull up Valerial's sheet. And Valerial is going to attempt, she's got her elven sword out, and she's going to attempt to parry. So her attack is 12, but her parry is 7. So here it is. She fails on the parry. And Valerial will notice that she has 1 pro right now. So as we bring up that Brigand again, yep, we have Valerial targeted with the Brigand. So I'm going to hit the damage. So this is 1d6 plus 3 to medium d6 plus 4. So we're going to go ahead and hit that. Let's see. I'm actually not sure why that did 2. But regardless of what it did, I just wanted to see the effect. So it says this is what we rolled, 13. And it was 2 Valerial, and it was -1. She actually only took, as you can see, damage 12 because of her protection. So hold on, I'm not sure why this was rolling so much. Let's see. That should be. Let's see if that does it correctly there. Oh, now it seems broken. So, some of this, you got to have to play with and figure it out as well. Yeah, I'm not sure why there was so much damage there, but, we can figure that out later. All I wanted to show you was the damage. So it's been about an hour here. There's still more to show you, although this was definitely the very basics. So let me know what you guys thought of this. I'll probably run this again on Friday. We'll get back into here and show you a couple more things that you can do with Fantasy Grounds and this really cool extension by Damned and Trenlo and Skellen, all of those guys on the forums made this possible. So I appreciate all of you guys, Doug, everybody from Fantasy Grounds, that made this really cool program that is allowing everyone to play the Dark Eye and other games on online. So I will come back on Friday to show you some more Fantasy Grounds goodness with the Dark Eye. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And let's see, somebody asked, this is on the standard client. Yeah, so this is Fantasy Grounds Classic. I have an Ultimate version, but it would look the same on the Fantasy Grounds standard license. But this is Fantasy Grounds Classic. I'm not using the Unity version. This extension does not work for Unity yet. So once again, thank you guys. I'll put all of this, I'll get this up on YouTube pretty quickly. And I'll probably also write a, we have a stay at home and play web blog on our website, but it was real quick. It just kind of pointed to how to download stuff. It didn't really give this level of detail. So I will give a more detailed blog to walk you through all that. Otherwise, I will see you on Friday for more Dark Eye on Fantasy Grounds. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.